Welcome back to school, everybody. I hope everyone had a wonderful break. I know I did. I slept a lot and ate a lot and probably gained about 5 pounds over the holiday. But it was totally worth it because Christmas food is amazing. So today we're going to talk about section 8-1, which talks about integers and the number line. Before we dive in, let's think about something first. Why do we need integers? Why do we need negative numbers? And this is what we're going to kind of think about today. To prepare for an overnight camping trip, you begin checking the temperatures to see what clothes to bring. If the trend continued, what might the temperature be at 8 p.m.? Describe or show a possible temperature. So on the purple chart over here on the side, you have different time periods and the temperature it was at that specific time. So at 4 o'clock p.m., the temperature was 6 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, I don't know about you guys, but if it's 6 degrees, I am not going to be camping outside. You can count me out. But apparently, in this situation, you want to. Anyways, so between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock, you can see that the temperature drops by 1 degree Fahrenheit. Okay? The trend does not continue. It kind of changes a little bit. Between 5 and 6, the temperature drops 3 degrees, going from 5 degrees Fahrenheit to 2 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, between 6 and 7, it drops 2 degrees, so from 2 to 0. And between 7 and 8, we are not quite sure. So think, according to the other numbers that are on the chart, what are some possibilities for 8? What are some possibilities that the temperature might be at 8 o'clock at night? Okay, there are a few. So think about that for a little bit, and then when you are ready, move on. You don't have to copy this down. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about would be what integers actually are. And I know a lot of us have seen the word integers and really started to freak out. So here's a little definition to put in your notebook. You want to either underline or highlight the word integers. Integers are positive whole numbers, their opposites, and 0. So for example, 2 would be an integer. So is -2 and 0. Some other examples of integers would be 3, -33, 18, -12. Okay? Integers are just whole numbers that are positive or negative or 0. Okay? Go ahead and copy this down into your notebook. You will need to know what integers are. Alright, so the next thing you're going to copy down are these two, These two definitions between positive numbers and negative numbers. Yes, I know you know what a positive number is, but you need to know what it is in math words as well. So positive numbers to the right of the 0 are positive numbers. So you can see on that number line beside the definition, the numbers that are blue are positive. Numbers without a sign are assumed to be positive. Okay? So you want to copy down the definition along with the number line. Negative numbers are to the left of 0. Negative numbers are written with a negative sign before the number. So negative numbers are never ever assumed. They always have the sign before, just like they do over here in this red line. Okay? Go ahead and pause the video, copy that down, and then you can move on when you're ready. Alright, the last little thing you're going to copy down for a definition is 0. Now I've seen a lot of people writing negative zeros. Guys, you cannot have -0 of something. Okay, you can't have -0 period. There is no -0. There's only one 0, and it's just 0. There is neither a positive or a negative 0. It's just 0. Okay? The reason why it's either positive or negative is because it does not travel in either direction. You cannot take 0 steps forward and 0 steps back. You're not moving at all. Now, if you were to do 1 step forward or 2 step forwards, that would be different. But since you aren't moving at all, 0, we can either positive or negative. Okay? You need to write down this short little sentence and copy down this number line, please. Alright, so one of the things that we do need to know about are what opposite numbers are. And a lot of times we hear opposites, we think that opposites attract. That's the common saying, and in some situations it's very true. Miss Kennedy and Austin, which is my boyfriend, we are complete opposites. Okay, I'm more the devil, and he's like a little angel. Now, but for real, let's go ahead and go back to math. In math, you have opposite numbers. These numbers are the same distance from 0, only one of them is positive and the other one is negative. So an example of opposite numbers will be like positive 2 or just 2 and negative 2. The negative and the positive 2 are both equal distance from 0. Okay, so therefore they are opposite. Okay, same with positive 3 and negative 3. Alright, it's still 3 spaces away from 0, just one has a positive sign or no sign, the other one has a negative sign. Okay? Copy down this definition, please. And I also want you to copy down this question right here. What is the opposite of 9? Don't just write a random number. Please write the question, what is the opposite of 9? And then write down what the opposite of 9 is. Get a neighbor or a teacher to check your work to make sure you got it, okay? Alright, so the next thing I want you to do is on your paper, either the activity side or the note side is fine. I want you to copy down this number line right here. The number line will range from negative 8, as you can see, to positive 8. Okay? Again, there is only 1 0. There is never a negative 0. Do not write negative 0. Okay? So now that's out of the way, go ahead and copy down your number line. You also want to write down the question, which integers represents each situation. Okay? You're not just going to answer, oh, the answer's A. That's not what it's asking you to do. You have to actually read the questions or read the statement. So let's look at A. 5 degrees below 0. So you got to figure out which integer will represent 5 degrees below 0. Alright? I want you to do A through D by yourself, because I know you can do it, and then you can move on with the video. Okay? I want you to copy down the statement and the answer. Again, do not write down random numbers because when you go back to look at it, you're going to be completely confused as to what you're talking about. Alright, so please write down the little statements. They're not even a sentence long. Okay, so the next part we're going to be talking about has a little bit of a science twist. And everybody knows that science and math kind of go hand in hand. We talked about that a couple of months ago, that a lot of science and math kind of intertwine. So here's a situation where they would intertwine. Electrons and protons are particles in an atom with equal but opposite charges. Electrons have a negative charge, and protons have a positive charge. What is the charge of an atom with 2 more electrons than protons? So, before we answer that part of the question, let's forget this for a second. Okay? We have electrons, which are negative, maybe that blue, and protons, which are positive. if you were to have one negative and one positive of the same type of charge, they are going to undo each other. Okay? Ooh. Alright, so there is no charge here. So if you have the same amount of negative charges as you do positive charges, there will be no charge. It will be at 0. Okay? But, and here's a little picture to kind of go along with what we're talking about. What if, according to our question, what is the charge of an atom with 2 more electrons than protons? Now, don't just look at the 2 more. You want to look at what it's talking about. It's talking about electrons. And we know that electrons have a negative charge. So let's kind of draw it out and think. There are protons. So there's like 3 protons. Let's just say that. And protons are positive. And let's say it says there are 2 more electrons, so we have to draw 5 electrons. Okay? So we got to figure out what the charge is going to be after we find the matches. So that one's done, and that one's done. One positive and one negative cancel each other out. Alright, the same thing with the second. 2 positives and 2 negatives cancel each other out. And just like we did a minute ago, 3 positives and 3 negatives cancel each other out. So now you're left with 2 negatives, or 2 electrons. We know that electrons have a negative charge, so we'll be left with a negative charge because there's no positives to cancel it out. Okay? That might be a little bit confusing, but that's sort of what we're going to see in this unit a little bit, okay? Oops. Alright, so copy this into your notebook. The lowest point in the United States is Death Valley, not the cliffs in Death Valley. I'm talking about the Death Valley that's out in California. Its elevation is 282 feet below sea level. So we've got to express this using integers. If it is 282 feet below sea level, how would you write that? Okay? Think about it, write it down in your notebook. You want to also copy down the question and the sentence before you start writing random numbers down, okay? Alright, so pause the video and go ahead and copy that down. The last part before we end. I want you to ask yourself, before you get on your homework, what are integers? Why do we need integers? What do integers allow you to do that whole numbers do not? Okay? So think about these questions and see if you can formulate an answer in your head. This is the end of our video for today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon and good luck on digits.